This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? Yeah, thank you. I just can't accept the applause this week. I absolutely sucked. And my colleagues in the sponsor Opportunity Green Room will let you know that. That's John Bradshaw Layfield, the WWE Hall of Famer turned rugby advocate, and King Gift Egbelu, the Yogi Berra of rugby / inventor of words. They're studying diligently and getting ready to break my chops relentlessly, because if you look at the Your Company name here slate, you'll see we got a lot of stuff to get to, including having George Hook, the Irish legend, calling in from Portugal. So let's get to it. Gentlemen, 66 and 51.
All thanks to King Gift Egbelu.
Well,
with the champ. Greatness works consistently.
Bam!
Boom.
The way it broke down, 25 and 14 was John's record. Gift, you were 22 and 17. I was under 500. I was 19 and 20. The Premiership, I went 1 and 4. And the top 14, I went 2 and 5. They were my death sentences. John, you were 5 and 0 again in the MLR. And ladies and gentlemen, before you start scribbling on Reddit or whatever you do, we say that we're going to check the odds again before the weekend, as close as we can to do it. And John actually put the corrections, specifically the one with LA Dallas and Old Glory, the points differentials. He put them in the video. Gift, I can see that you're having trouble with your internet. So before we lose you, let's get through this segment, because we got George waiting in the wings. Any observations from last weekend, John?
Yeah, the big difference in point spread. And the reason is very simple. Look, you had a difference in point spread of 9.5 points favoring Old Glory and 13.5 on MGM Bet. That you don't see that anywhere else in sports. And the reason is because look at ESPN app. They cover everything as little as badminton, chess, snooker. They cover Asian 5 Nations rugby. They cover CAR, African rugby. The only thing they don't cover, MLR rugby. So there's nobody that covers MLR, and so the books don't care because there's no money being bet on it. And in fact, I went to one of the sports books last year to try to bet on a game in DC on DC, and you can't even bet in DC on DC because the books don't cover it.
And we got to get them to offer some more different kinds of bets. I mean, just the spreads. I mean, how about an over-under, for God's sakes, right? I mean,
yeah, every once in a while they put it out. Well, the problem is there's no money being bet on it. You know, there's no demand for it. But that gives you value in betting.
Well, a couple of things I was looking at last week. You got to watch the Super Rugby match between the Blues and the Hurricanes. What a match. You will not be disappointed. And also on this side of the pond, I wanted to point out how Old Glory DC in the MLR is alive and kicking after their big win in Chicago, snapping the Hounds' 4-game winning streak.
Hounds?
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 Yeah. What's the plural of
Word.
hounds? What's the plural of hounds?
Hounds.
No.
Yes. One hound.
Just the
is
hounds. What the
What
hounds?
hound
is
that?
The singular.
It belongs to the Hounds. So
What
what is it?
hound?
This is Buff. This is
It's
this
the
is
Hounds.
University of Buffalo education.
Fans, if nothing else, please weigh in on the plurality of hounds, the Hounds plural. Thank
The
you.
hounds. You said hounds.
Let's take a quick break and welcome in George Hook.
Need a great price on a new vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. Easy Price shows you our lowest prices on the Mid-Atlantic's largest selection. Find your best price online or at any of our 31 dealerships.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
And once again, we have the pleasure of welcoming back Mr. George Hook to the Rugby Odds.
yeah.
George, yes! George Hook. Yes!
Yes.
Yeah!
George Hook is back. I'm
Yes.
George Hook is here.
Yeah! George, where are you?
I'm in the Algarve in the south of Portugal.
Oh, the life you lead. The
I
life you
don't know,
lead.
I don't know what that temperature is in your money, but in our money, it's 28 degrees centigrade.
All right, so Gift's not with us right now. He's still got the gerbils on the wheel trying to figure out how he can get his internet to work in Brazil. John, do you have a question for George?
Absolutely. Mr. Hook, what should be done with the Gloucester, whoever made the decision to put the training players out there that shouldn't have been on a professional rugby pitch. They should give the kids who paid to come see a professional rugby game, they should give them kendo sticks. Take that person to the county square and beat him like a piñata. Because I just think it's terrible for the game of rugby what Gloucester did. What is your opinion?
First of all, because you have this very old guy on the show, I can't help about thinking back into the past. And Gloucester were one of the great teams of English rugby. They also had the most vociferous, the most one-eyed supporters in the game. And there's a part of the Gloucester ground called a shed. And they put all the worst supporters in the shed who screamed abuse at the referee and the opposing team. But Gloucester were hard to beat. What they've done is to actually offend their fans. They have offended the people who support the club, to watch their club lose by 90 points, to watch the young kids who they want to encourage the next generation. Now, don't forget, they are second from the bottom of the Premiership. If there were relegation, they'd be gone. While Gloucester are losing by 90, the Falcons are losing by 60 or 70 to Bristol. So what you're looking at now is a competition, the English Premiership, that lacks credibility. Now, for the coach Skivington of Gloucester to say, I'm trying to win some piece of pottery that has no meaning, it's a second division cup, and to that end, he puts his team out to be slaughtered. It is unforgivable. This is a Gloucester team that are not competitive when they have the best 15 on the pitch or the third 15 on the pitch. It's only a question of by how much are they the inferior team.
I completely agree with everything you've said. It robs the fans, most importantly, of coming to see a professional game. I mean, you're killing the game.
But the problem is there are now so many competitions. You got the URC, then the following week they're playing the European Championship, then they're playing the European Champions Challenge Cup, and then they're playing to will they be in Europe next year and so on. So you've got all these competitions. It's hard to blame Skivington, although I do, but it is hard to blame him if he says, well, there's Mickey Mouse trophy, I seriously want to win. Whoever has Gloucester rugby in their heart says this coach isn't for us.
Are Gloucester in financial trouble, or are they sound?
You don't know they're in financial trouble until the liquidator comes in. So, you actually don't know. We didn't know, we being Irish who support at a distance London Irish, we didn't know London Irish were in financial trouble. They had to deal with some American consortium who were going to buy it. I'm not sure the American consortium ever even existed. And then we woke up one morning and London Irish were gone. When you have idiots obviously, clearly having imbibed the port after dinner too much, fiddling around with the scrum to create a complete abortion now of the scrum. So now what teams are going to do is they're going to concede free kicks, not to concede a scrum. I find it hard to believe that the rugby we're talking about now will exist in 10 years' time.
George, I know we're talking about what we might see and what we're not could see and this and that, but one thing that we are seeing, and it's rather miraculous considering the travel and the times and all that, Munster on a 7-game winning streak in the URC, damning all the speculation about, you can't travel, you can't play with your team. 7-game winning streak in the URC. Can they win it all?
I don't think they can win it all because the numbers are against them, right? But what they are demonstrating, which we've known forever, is Munster, amateur or professional, has been a very, very competitive team. If you look at Gloucester and you look at Munster, the idea of pulling on that red shirt is still pretty special in Munster. It's pretty special to the fans. If you go to Thorne Park, it's a very special atmosphere. Gloucester have now lost that. And in losing it, they may never regain it. Munster haven't lost it. Munster lost a few matches, but they didn't lose the faithful. And now the faithful are looking at them and saying, we're doing well here.
Munster a couple months ago did not look like a top-tier team at times. They had problems with their lineouts. They had problems throughout their entire team. Was it injuries and just getting players back? Is that all it was?
No. They were never a bad team. Like that's the difference. They lost a few matches, but didn't make them fundamentally a bad team. Gloucester, on the other hand, are a bad team, no matter who they put out. Newcastle Falcons are a bad team, no matter who they put in the shirt.
All right, George, before we let you go, we're going to give you a hypothetical because I know you love hypotheticals. You just love those. The fly half of your choice in his prime out of the last 20 years. Who is it?
I'm very unhappy about only having 20 years to pick from.
Well, we got to keep it somewhat current, George.
Oh, give him a 50. Give him 100. It's his show, not yours, Matt.
John's mic has been muted. John's mic has been muted, George. So
yeah, but if you pick somebody on your program who sort of thinks 1948 was sort of 2 days ago, that's where my fly half is currently residing in 1948. But you said 20 years. Presumably Wilkinson qualifies for 20 years. Johnny Sexton certainly qualifies within 20 years. But for me, the outstanding number 10 in that period was Dan Carter. And I mean, I think it's Dan Carter 1 and everybody else 3 and 4.
And who was it in 1948, George?
Jack Kyle, John Wilson Kyle. In fact, Dr. John Wilson Kyle, he was a doctor. Yeah, and he incredibly, like when he retired from the game, he went to Africa to look after people less well off than himself. Pretty impressive guy all round.
What made him special as a number 10?
Well, you see, if you look at the offside law, this is the key thing. If you look at the offside law in 1948, it was the ball, right? It wasn't the back row's feet or was anything else. It was the ball. And secondly, the wing forward did not have to bind in the scrum. So when the other team won the thing, your man could break off the scrum and literally walk to the back of the other team's scrum. So he's now about 4 yards away from the opposing fly half. He's staring at him. Now, in that circumstance, with that tiny amount of space to work in, Kyle scored individual tries, some of the great individual tries of the era. He went down to New Zealand in 1950 with the Lions and played in 64% of the matches. And they played 32 matches, and he played in 64% of them. New Zealanders said at that time he was the best fly half they had ever seen in the country. So he's pretty special, and I got his picture on my phone.
Wow. That is special. All right. Well, it's special always having you on, George, and we really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on, Mr. George Hook, ladies and gentlemen.
All right.
Yes. Yes. Woo! Yeah. Thanks, George.
All right. Thank you.
You need your cleats? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now.
And we are back, and so too is Gift Egbelu, whose internet bailed on him while George was here. Gift, did you just not like George? Is that what it was?
No. See, it wasn't just internet. You know, whenever you got a pregnant wife, you got to do the double duty. It would have been here earlier, but I got to put priorities, man.
That
Priorities.
man is the father of the year, and it's right near Mother's Day, so don't you say a word, Matt McCarthy.
The host.
He's a
I have to
king,
speak.
too. He's the king. You'd be like Prince Harry. You'd be like the little stupid child that runs off and does stupid.
All right, both their mics are muted, so we can continue with our new TRO Top 6 Consensus Team. Yeah. The way it works, ladies and gentlemen, we have a table where we each pick our top 6 right now in the MLR. We rank them. We weight those ranked teams with a points table. So if you pick your number 1 team, you get 6 points, your number 2 team's 5 points, and so on. And we have a consensus team. John, you ranked your teams: Houston first, Seattle second, San Diego third, New England fourth, Chicago fifth, NOLA sixth. Gift, you had Houston, Chicago, Seattle, New England, San Diego, and NOLA. And I had Houston, Seattle, New England, San Diego, NOLA, and Old Glory as my 6th team.
Suck up.
Interesting that none of us had Dallas.
Wait a minute. That's not interesting. That makes sense. Dallas has beaten 4 teams. They've beaten the 4 worst teams in the league. They've beaten LA, they've beaten Utah, they've beaten Miami, and they've beaten Anthem. I mean, I think we'd all agree those are probably the 4 worst teams in the league. Now, of those teams, Anthem has no chance of doing anything this year. Other 3 can get on a run. They got talent. Those are 4 worst teams. That's the only teams Dallas has beaten. Dallas is much better this year, but you got to put into account who they've beaten. I wouldn't rank Dallas above 8.
Yeah, but they've had a couple of 1-point losses too, right?
They're losses.
Exactly. Again, it's still showing the ability to win, even though they have improved significantly from what we've seen from years prior. But again, most improved team is not top 6 team.
Yeah, and what King's talking about is right. Chicago could be one of the best top 3 teams in the league if they didn't make mistakes. They have not. King is right. They have not figured out how to win. At one point, it was 13-4 in penalties against Old Glory. I mean, they lost that game, and that's how Old Glory plays. Old Glory plays to take advantage of other teams. They don't play to win games. They play to take advantage of other teams. It's like the small high school that plays zone defense that you hate playing. You know, okay, we're going to play against these guys. They're going to try to beat us on free throws. Old Glory beats people on kicks because they have a great kicking. That's what fits their team. Chicago is a team that can be really good. They just make too many penalties, too many yellow cards, too many penalties. They're just not very disciplined yet, but they are loaded with talent.
And, you know, it's interesting you say that because Simon Cross, the head coach last week on MLR Weekly, was talking about how, you know, our rugby IQ isn't the highest, meaning the Old Glory, because they got a lot of young American talent. But he said, if we learn to play within ourselves, if we play our game, we can beat teams. And I think you saw that against Chicago, which on paper, Chicago's got a much better team. Even without Billy Meeks out on paternity leave, they had a much better team on paper. And they were at home and on a 4-game winning streak.
Yeah, completely agree. Old Glory lets you beat yourself.
All right, so our all-consensus team has Houston first, and all 3 of us had that. Seattle second. 2 of us had Houston and Seattle in that order. Then it's New England. Then it's San Diego. Then it's Chicago. And then it's NOLA. And then the 7th team was DC because I had picked DC as my 6th team. John, you had Seattle ranked number 2 over San Diego. What got you there?
Seattle, to me, is a team that plays really well in big games. You know, they've lost a couple games that have been very close, but I lean Seattle just because they play better defense. That seawall is legit. I mean, they play really good defense, and I've got a rookie doll, so I don't know what else you want to go with.
Gift, you have Chicago as your 2nd-ranked team. Were you high when you typed that in?
Wait a minute,
No.
you're accusing somebody of drug use on this show?
I think that was apparent. Yeah.
See. Again, University of
He lives in
Buffalo.
Brazil.
champ. University of Buffalo.
It's
We
perfectly
put it to the side.
acceptable.
Yeah, you live
Look.
from University of Buffalo where they created the Wild Wings. That's all you've ever done up there. And you lose a bunch of Super Bowls.
Do I have to show the clip again of the University of Buffalo Rugby Association telling what they thought of you? Do I have to do that again?
Who has ever heard of the University of Buffalo Rugby Association? I'm sorry.
We're the Harvard of the SUNY system. Okay.
What
Yeah.
is the SUNY system?
Goodness. It
Exactly.
just gets worse and worse the more you talk,
Yeah.
Matt. Yo, don't kill recruits for this university.
All right,
You know
Gift.
what you
We
what
got to
you
move this
get if you
along.
You know what you get if you get all of the guys on the Rugby Buffalo, whatever it is, together? A full set of teeth.
Absolutely perfect.
Has anybody else ever graduated from Buffalo? I mean, is it actually a school there?
So he's muted again, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, Gift. Quickly.
Look.
Why Chicago at number 2?
I put Chicago on this despite what we saw against DC and kind of pointing out what Champ said, even though they have an issue when it comes to consistency. I
But they
think
just
obviously
lost
need
at home to Old Glory.
and they
Just say
need
that.
their flops. It's part of the growth process, but these moments are what leads them to being able to have championship capabilities. Last year, Chicago is where Dallas is now. Chicago now is moving past that. And I have Chicago because of the talent and their ability to make up for their mistakes. I promise next week, even though they're going to be taking on Houston, this is going to be a much closer game than people give it credit. And I don't think Houston should take this one easy.
Well, a couple of things to consider is, number one, New England's got
Consider is you are a Paul Sheehy suck up, and you're going to find some way to say something about Old Glory. So go ahead. Go ahead.
Old Glory's 2-0 since Simon Cross, the head coach, came on MLR Weekly and spoke to me. Thank you very much. Okay? So, Layfield.
So rude.
4 teams have a game in hand. New England, NOLA, San Diego, and LA. So that has to be weighed in here too. And New England's got a whole bunch of injuries. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to go back with some picks. But here's our TRO top 6 consensus team.
Worst name ever. It sucks.
From New York City comes America's longest running and most popular rugby show. The biggest names in Major League Rugby, MLR highlights, and big match previews. Rugby Wrap-Up presents MLR Weekly, made in New York City. Hey, U.S. fans, you can tune into every match live on Flow Rugby. How do we know that? Because we're on there all the time. And we're back, and let's stay with the MLR. Let's get some picks. John, who do you like this week in the MLR?
LA has got a bunch of players back, and they look like the team that they did at the beginning of the year. They went through a run, but they did not look very well. They got Anthem, and they are going to absolutely run them off the field. It's minus 18 or whatever it is. Take LA.
Gift.
Man, look, Utah just came off a loss, but they're going down to New Orleans, and NOLA is going to use that confidence, and I do feel like this is going to be a close one, but New Orleans is going to hold the spread and beat this Utah team.
I'm going to go with New England on the road in San Diego. I know they're banged up. I know they're traveling to San Diego, but I think
I'll bet you a Brazilian dollar on that, pal.
I'll double you a toonie. How about that?
Deal.
Who do you like in the URC, Johnny?
You have these languages that just make you sound like
Yeah, it's a different language. That was a different language. Oh my God.
Like you need to be eating crayons or something. I mean,
What do you think I do between takes?
Zebre and Scarlets. This is 2 car wrecks in one garage. Zebre has been so good at home. This is their last chance probably to win a game. This is a disaster, but I'm going with Zebre at home to beat Scarlets.
Gift.
Looking at Connick trying to protect their house against the Stormers, but you know, as much as the Stormers have typically sucked when they go up to Ireland, it's summertime now. I look for the Stormers to cover the spread on this one against Connick. Plus the win.
All right.
Boom!
I can't believe none of you guys, neither of you guys picked Munster. Edinburgh hosting Munster. Munster only minus 4.5. I'm going with Munster because that's a money pick. How about the
You're a suck up.
Let's go to the Premiership. The Premiership, I got to say, you guys were spot on last week, and I was way off with Bristol. John, you nailed it with Saracens. They destroyed Bristol. And Gift, you literally said that Northampton was going to destroy Gloucester, and you didn't even know they were playing academy players at that point. Let's see if you can back up what you did last week with the Premiership this week. John.
You got a city named after the Native American animal.
I had to mute him. Gift, who's your pick in the Premiership?
Gloucester is taking on Newcastle. When you talk about Zebre Scarlets, this is also Gloucester's Newcastle. This is the bottom of the bunch. I mean, if you look at the tar at the bottom of the trash barrel that is underneath the cockroach is what this game is going to be.
Wow.
And I look for Newcastle to actually cover the spread versus Gloucester. 16.5. Gloucester, too embarrassed. Newcastle doesn't even care. This is the I don't give a F tournament right here. Give it to Newcastle to beat the spread, still lose, but cover the spread, and Gloucester to take it.
I don't know why people keep disrespecting Northampton or dismissing Northampton. They are underdogs going into Bath. And I know Bath's at home, and they got Finn Russell, but all Northampton does is win and win big games, specifically when people don't think they're going to win. I'm taking Northampton. John, now that your mic is back on, who do you like in the Premiership?
I can't stand Buffalo. Buffalo sucks, but I love Quins over Bristol.
Okay, and because we're low on time, we're going to put up in graphics our picks for the Super Rugby. Here's the NRL. Here's the top 14. But we're going to pick Japan Rugby League One. John, who do you like in the Japan Rugby League One semifinals in the first match, Wild Knights or the Cannon Eagles?
For our huge Japanese audience that watches us, Wild Knights and Lupus.
Gift?
Looking at Wild Knights and Sun Goliath to do this one. Kind of a rematch from last year or something.
For me, this is like Sophie's choice between the Brave Lupus and the Sun Goliath, but I'm going to take the Brave Lupus and I'm going to take the Wild Knights. Picks of the week. John.
It's very simple. You like New England, I'm going against you. I'm taking San Diego at home. San Diego's been knocking on the door the last couple of years. They've got a great team. So does New England. It's going to be the game of the week, but I'm going with San Diego at home. Long travel, and I think San Diego wins the game.
Okay, Gift.
Houston versus Chicago game. I said we just talked about the Chicago did a little down game against Old Glory. Look for them to come up for this one because they're waiting for this one. This is going to be a hard, rough game in Houston in the heat. And this is going to be where it all breaks down. But I look for Chicago to actually cover the spread, but I do think Houston will win.
I'm going to go back to the URC. I like Glasgow getting 1.5 points down in South Africa against Gift's Lions. So, Gift, I think your Lions are going to get beaten by Glasgow.
Won't you go back to Buffalo?
On that note, we're out of time. I want to thank John Bradshaw Layfield, the WWE Hall of Fame return rugby advocate, King Gift Egbelu, the inventor of words, George Hook, the Irish rugby pundit, and thank you for tuning in. Please check out our other shows, including MLR Weekly, the College Rugby Wrap-Up. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, sign up for our weekly newsletter, and please join our American Red Cross blood donor team.
Hey, and screw you, Buffalo Rugby.
Exactly.